We're going to have a conversation about coronavirus, but it is my commitment to you that nothing I post on any of my social media fronts are going to be fear-mongering or about contributing to any kind of panic or hysteria. My goal is to bring you and provide you a space that is grounding, where we are going to learn what to do with ourselves, how to handle ourselves, how to deal with what is happening while everything is feeling uncertain. And a lot of times we're not even really sure what to think or feel. I'm going to talk about that here today. I'm going to give you some tools, some things to be mindful of, some things that are going to help you during this time. If you're new here, my name is Kristina, and I'm a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, and a coach. And if you have not been here before, please do introduce yourself in the comment section below. Would love to hear from you. Would love to just know how you're doing and what's going on with you. Take a second and connect in the comment section below. And if you are back again, I am so glad to have you here. And let's have a conversation about this. But before we do, let's all take a minute and take a big, deep belly breath. We've been running around, been racing around, maybe not physically, and if not physically, then we have mentally and emotionally. So let's take a second, let's ground and let's breathe. Take a big, deep inhale in through your nose, and then a long, slow exhale through your mouth. Do that regularly. That is going to get you in and of itself out of the intense swirling in your brain. It's going to help you feel more grounded. Your brain and your body are going to feel more connected and grounded just by breathing. That's not just what we're talking about today. We are going to be talking about a lot more. And first and foremost, we do need to talk about how important it is for us to do our best to keep ourselves as grounded as possible right now. Yes, there is a lot of uncertainty. Yes, there's a lot of anxiety-provoking information and things happening. But hysteria breeds hysteria. And the more hysterical we become, the more we produce hysteria for other people, or the more we feed into other people's hysteria, the more it produces more mass hysteria. And a lot of the times, our brains can just get pulled into hysteria. We see other people being frantic and panicking, and then we start to panic just because they're panicking, because our brains think, well, they're panicking, there must be something terrible happening, so I'm just going to panic, without even actually taking a step back and looking at the facts and figuring out what are they even panicking about. Case in point, the toilet paper issue. People hoarding toilet paper and nobody even really knowing why they're doing it. Doing it because they see other people doing it. And this is a very tangible example of how mass panic breeds more mass panic just because people are panicking. So what we can do is we can not control other people's panic and their hysteria, but what we can do is we can take a step back and we can take a breath and we can be more mindful and we can be more responsible with what we are thinking and feeling. And I'm going to teach you how to do that here today as well. So not just keeping yourself grounded for yourself because it's good for your mental health, it's good for your well-being, it's good for your immune system, because you know it's not good for your immune system, stress and anxiety and getting all out of sorts, which is absolutely understandable right now. But if we can allow ourselves to process through those feelings and then come back and finding the ground underneath our feet, that's not just going to be good for us, but that's going to be good for society as a whole. The more people that are able to keep their feet on the ground right now, the more that is going to be contagious. Hysteria, panic, fear, anxiety are contagious. So is love, connection, groundedness, hopefulness, calm. We get to choose which one we are going to pass along. This isn't about putting our heads in the sand and pretending that everything is fine and everything is okay and plugging your ears and closing our eyes and pretending that if we can't see it or pay attention to it, then it's just going to go away. Absolutely not. But it is about really understanding what's happening. because there has been so many shutdowns, there have been quarantines, there have been all kinds of things canceled, and public places being shut down, and people going into isolation and talking about social distancing depending on where you are in the world. All these things are happening. And so what we start to think, when you start to think, oh my goodness, the whole world is shutting down, this must be awful. This must be this terribly awful virus. But the truth is, when this video is being recorded, the information that we have now, the truthful information that we have now, is that the coronavirus in and of itself is not a major threat for most people. It can be more threatening for people who are elderly, people who have a compromised immune system, people who already have a pre-existing condition of some kind, and so they're immunocompromised. And so they don't have the same kind of ability to fight off viruses or to recover as quickly from them. But the majority of us getting the virus, is not a major threat. What is more threatening, and the reason why they're shutting everything down and asking people to keep to themselves and to keep disconnected, physically disconnected, not emotionally or mentally or verbally disconnected, but staying physically distanced from other people, is because we need to stop the spread. Because the more people that get the virus, the more people need to be tested. If they start showing symptoms, any kind of cold symptoms, they need to be tested. The more people who get it are more likely, there's going to be, just the numbers show that there's going to be people in there that experience complications from it, so they're going to need to go to the hospital. And so that is putting a lot of strain on our medical systems in all of our countries. And so when we have this influx of people who need medical care, it means that the people who actually have life-threatening illnesses that have nothing to do with coronavirus, or people that need to have access to health care, they're not able to get it because the system is overloaded. And so those people are often even more in danger. And so we are trying not to get the virus, not because it's going to have a major impact on us as individuals, but because it's going to create a whole bunch of problems for a whole bunch of other people. And so we're taking responsibility for not getting the virus in order to protect other people. So just having a little bit of perspective and knowing that as individuals, most of us are not significantly threatened by coronavirus in and of itself, but we are not wanting to get it in order to protect the people that are more vulnerable. And yes, it's absolutely fair enough to have feelings about what's happening right now. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel anxious. That's what our brains do in the face of uncertainty. And so, as I was mentioning, creating space for those feelings, allowing yourself to have those feelings by simply just naming them, noticing what they feel like in your body, allowing yourself to just experience what it is that you are feeling in that moment. When we try to push our feelings away, or when we get stuck in the spiral of them, both of those scenarios are what cause us to get stuck under our feelings. When we try to avoid them, they just push back harder. When we indulge them and let them just sort of run rampant, then we get stuck under them. And so just creating space for them, allowing ourselves to have some self-compassion. It's understandable. I'm feeling whatever it is I'm feeling because things are uncertain, things are unknown right now. And so allowing yourself to have those feelings first, creating space for them. And then once you can find the ground underneath your feet again by allowing yourself to process through those feelings, then going into your mind and taking responsibility for how you want to be thinking about things, how you want to be seeing things, what you want to be doing, how you want to be contributing positively to the conversation, how you want to be helping. We have a choice right now. We can contribute to the fear and the hysteria, or we can contribute love and connection and just an overall kind of attitude of being grounded and trusting that we are going to be okay, that this, like everything, is temporary. So we can't control this situation. As much as we want to, we cannot control it. We also can't control how other people are handling it, how other people are reacting to it. But what we can do is manage ourselves. We can take responsibility for ourselves. We can take precautions. We can follow advisories. We can take a step back and we can take a breath and we can keep ourselves grounded and we can contribute in positive ways instead of letting ourselves get pulled into the hysteria, because our brains want to do that. It smells fear. Our brains smell fear. And so it thinks if other people are scared, if I smell fear, then I must need to get scared too. And my brain's been wanting to do it. So I'm having to remind myself and pull back and acknowledge that fear and then remind myself, okay, what do I want to be focusing on right now? Because going down those rabbit holes that we've all been going down is not going to be helpful. What do I want to be focused on? What do I want to be doing right now? How do I want to be contributing? What do I need to remind myself of to keep myself grounded in the midst of everything that is happening? We can show up, we can respond, we can participate out of love, out of something helpful, something productive. What's not going to help with this is continuing to read the news, continuing to go online and scrolling endlessly and getting addicted to the information about coronavirus. Because again, our brains are trying to get some kind of sense of control, and we have this idea that the more information I get, the more control I can have. But no matter how much information you get outside of the advisories in your community, there's really nothing that you can do. And so all it's doing by going in and getting all this information, you're just getting yourself more anxious and more fearful and more worked up, which is then your brain thinks, well, I'm scared and I'm worried, so I must need to try and get more control by getting more information. And so it becomes almost this addictive cycle. So if we can get in there and we can notice what we're doing and take a break and take a step back and have designated times that we're going to look, or only, credible sources that we're going to be going to. And if you notice yourself getting really anxious when you do go online in an attempt to try and make yourself feel less anxious, but it's actually making it worse, being mindful of that and having social media boundaries, not just with how often you're going on social media or going onto the news or reading things about it, but where you're going to get your information. There's a lot of fear-mongering out there because news is a business. And so they make money when you click on their articles, when you read their stuff. And so the more sensationalist they can make it, the more superfluous language they can use, the more it's going to trigger emotion in you that's going to make you keep reading. And so really being mindful, there are really great news sources out there that are keeping things objective, that they're not using fear-mongering language. They're stating facts and they're giving information, they're giving advisories, but they're not doing it by using language that instills a bunch of fear in people. And you will notice the difference in how you feel depending on where you are getting your information. So having some boundaries around that, taking responsibility with where that information is coming from. And here are a few more things that you can do to help keep yourself grounded when all this is happening. Set boundaries with both information, like I mentioned, and conversations. If there are conversations and people who every time you talk to them, they're talking about the latest horror story, or they are telling you about, all these terrible things that are about to happen that no one actually has any proof of. If they are in it and they are feeling really anxious, instead of getting angry with them and trying to get them to stop feeling anxious, you can decide to have your boundaries and not participate in the conversation with them, letting them know that you are not interested in talking about it, that if they are feeling really worked up, that you will talk to them another time. Having that and setting those boundaries with them so that you can be protecting your brain right now. Because we all need it. The whole collective needs us all to be protecting our brain and guarding our brain from going into panic or hysteria. The next thing is to connect with people who are having positive, helpful, and hopeful conversations. People where you talk to them and you feel more grounded after you talk to them. Or even just having conversations that are not always related to this virus. Carrying on some sort of semblance of normal life, even though this isn't normal life, but having a little bit of normalcy in it. Calling friends or family, or going online into different groups or forums where there is healthy, helpful, positive conversations going on about this coronavirus or about anything else. So being mindful of where you are showing up and how you are showing up and who you are showing up with. The next one, doing your breathing. We did some breathing at the beginning here, but making sure you are doing your breathing. When there is panic around, our brain wants to go into panic, and then we can lose connection between our brains and our bodies. So our brains start to think, oh my goodness, there's panic happening, I better panic. So then we start breathing more shallow, and then that sends a signal to our brain, oh my goodness, we're breathing more shallow, which means that threat is inevitable, that we are in immediate danger this very second. And so then our body starts freaking out, going into fight or flight, which sends that signal back to our brain, and then just keeps going back and forth. So if we can take a breath, a big deep belly breath, or 2 or 4 or 8, where we inhale slowly and then exhale slowly. And that will help our body calm down, which will send a signal to our brain that, okay, we are okay, we can do this, we can find the ground, we can get ourselves through this. And so doing that, and also doing your meditation. If you don't meditate, if you don't do mindfulness exercises, or even if you do, I have a free one for you. It is a fantastic one that's going to be extremely helpful right now. I'm going to put the link in the description below so you can grab that 10-minute guided mindfulness audio exercise. The next one, book more remote sessions with your therapist. I'm assuming in most places in the world, as public services are being closed down or advised, people are being advised to stay close to home. If you are not able to go in and see your therapist in office, book some distance sessions, book some extra ones right now. Have that space where you can go and talk and process and have someone that's going to help you through this time. The next one, like I was mentioning about having normal conversations, do some normal things. Give your brain a break from the overthinking about this whole thing. Play some games, go for some walks, do some responsible, socially distant, but fun activities. Do some cooking, do some baking. Have some FaceTime virtual dance parties with your friends. Let me know in the comment section below what you have been doing, or some ideas of things that you can do to have some fun, have some moments of joy, some moments of presence and connection and normalcy in the midst of this all. Let me know. I'd love to hear that. We can crowdsource in the comments. You can tell us what you're doing, so people who are really having a hard time thinking of things to do, they will get some easy and clear ideas by looking at the comments. So make sure you write down there some things you are doing, or some ideas of things that you could be doing that you maybe are going to be mindful of starting to do. Take it easy. Some people are dealing with this by getting really busy and organizing and cleaning and just being really productive, right? Some people cope like that. And then some people cope by just taking a step back and relaxing and breathing and connecting, or even distracting is not a bad thing right now. Watching some movies, playing some games, like I said. Some people cope well by taking a step back. So it's whatever works for you. I think some of us are seeing other people online, like getting all these things done. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, should I be super productive right now? No, and there's nothing wrong with not being it. And there's also nothing wrong with being super productive and organizing and spring cleaning and overhauling your entire place. There's nothing wrong with that. Just really being true and listening to what you need from yourself right now, being true to yourself, noticing what you need from yourself right now. We are going to get through this. This, like everything ever, is temporary. Grab that free download. Let's have some conversations in the comment section below. I'm so glad that you were here. And if there are other people that you think need to hear this message, please do feel free to share it out, like the video, because that helps with also getting this in front of more people, and subscribe to my channel so that we can stay connected. Until next time, take good care.